All right, everybody, welcome to Read the Line Celebrity Picker. We have a legend this week. I've got Dan Quinn, not just for his NHL stature, but this guy has won the Celebrity Tahoe Shootout 5 times. And just a great crossover celebrity for this week's preview of the Honda Classic. Dan, welcome to Read the Line. How are you today?
Keith, thanks for having me on. Good to see a fellow golf pro with a hockey jersey on.
Yeah, well, I know you didn't play for the Rangers, but I love my Rangers. But the jersey's just out of respect for you and your career. I think 13, 14 years, over 700 points. I mean, you're a legend, man.
Yeah. Well, you get better every year you're retired, so I've gotten a lot better over the last 20 years.
Let's get on to what we should be talking about, and that's the Honda Classic and handicapping this thing. All right. So, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on is that you've actually caddied in the event for one of the guys that won it. I know Els won it in '08, and you've caddied for him a couple times. So let's start previewing this thing. What was your experience like being inside the ropes there at the champion course?
So Ernie, that's the kind of I'll give you the 30-second splur of to where we live here in Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens area, and Ernie moved here in '08 because from England he was going to call this home and decided to play the Honda Classic, and he was lucky enough for I just met him, but he stayed at a property not too far from the course that I was working at. Used to be the Ritz Carlton. It's now Trump Jupiter, and he stayed on property and he won the tournament, and he was moving here because of his son and the autistic goals that he had, which was to start a school here because in the UK autism was not recognized. So that sort of led to a whole influx of the guys that now call uh, Jupiter Palm Beach Gardens. It started with a lot of the Chubby Chandler guys from Lee Westwood and Roy McIlroy and Oosthuizen and Schwartzel all started to call this home. And as you know now, we have it's grown into Kepka's from here, but Dustin Johnson and I can go on Jason Duffner and on and on and on and on. All live in this 20-minute corridor, so it's gone crazy. But that sort of was Ernie was one of like there's guys from here, from Greg Norman and Nick Price and Parnovic, Robert Allenby had been here over those time, but it was sprinkled around. Mark Kalkovecki, a dozen guys. To now there's 100. It's just anywhere you go. Justin Thomas. I mean, it's just these guys are everywhere. But then I got the caddy for Ernie in 2010. So two comments I'll have on that, and we'll get into the reason we're on. The original Honda was played. They've changed two greens, well, two holes significantly that I think kind of made it even. Everybody talks about the bear trap, but the 11th and the 14th greens. But they also started overseeding because they didn't like the way it looked on TV. So when Ernie and Luke Donald, I think in the first years, '07 and '08 or '08, '09, I think whatever years those were, they still had the old Bermuda rough, and it played like a true Florida course, which firm and fast and the way it flyer lies. Until you'll see it this year, it's beautiful, but they overseeded the rough again, so it's green and doesn't honestly play like a true Florida course, in that it looks like you're in a northern course. So that said, yeah, it's got to work for Ernie in 2010 and 2012, and so here we are. From an insight perspective, I played the course, as you know, last week. My son's a member there, so they have a junior development membership. So I'm over there quite a bit, and I've played the champ quite a bit the last 2 years since he got this junior development membership. So we're looking forward to it. He has fun walking around, and we look forward to not the best field. They've had date challenges and COVID and whatnot, but there's enough good players in there to have a couple good wagers in.
Well, let me start here then. You played the golf course and you're a very, very good golfer. What's the skill set needed to score well at the champ? What should we be looking for in the field for guys to contend?
The number one thing will be the wind. So the greens are really quick. The fairways are firm. The rough is overseeded, as I mentioned, and a sneaky thick. These guys are strong enough; they should still be able to, advance the balls and stuff. It's not like it's really high. But if you saw LA this past weekend, they could host a major at Riviera, but there was absolutely no rough, and that's what happens. 19
Yeah.
under wins. The Honda converts two par fives, the sixth and the 10th, as you know, to par fours. The sixth, sometimes can play quite difficult if the wind direction, because the green doesn't fit long irons or even mid irons for from even for a tour pro. Um, but so the skill set, obviously, finding fairways, and you're gonna have to hit greens because chipping and putting is around these missing in the wrong spots. And I alluded to the 11th and the 14th, and actually the fourth. That the Mr. Nicholas, when the Honda became its permanent home here the last little bit, uh, put two chipping areas in on the fourth and the 11th that are extremely penal. Whereas rough used to hold it up if you went long. The 11th, especially because it's over water on the second shot. A very hard hole if it's with whatever wind direction. Very hard tee shot, and if you miss it, it's a very hard second. And if you take the green on, you go into this chipping area where it's almost virtually a guaranteed bogey, if not more. And the 14th has been complete. 14th has been completely redone, and it's probably why the field has kind of shied away. There's a few holes now, too many holes that are one bad swing and you're making a double or a triple.
You bring up the fourth hole there, and I'm curious what your thought is, having played the golf course, worked the golf course. Everyone talks about the bear trap, but what about five, six, and seven? I mean, that three hole stretch is almost harder statistically than the bear trap is year in and year out.
There again, the wind direction will dictate. So if it's out of, what this time of year could happen, a north or a western wind, that makes, it's blowing into the water on five, and then the seventh plays dead in, and it's a very, very, precise green. And six, as you just talked about, if it's coming off the left or in at all, you're talking about a 500-yard par four with water all down the left and a green that's meant to have sand wedges hit into it. So, to your point, if the wind direction is not in favorable, and five, the par three can be, they play it back there 190, 200, 210. They might move the tee up when it's a front pin. And then you brought the fourth hole, which you stand there and look at it when you get through one, two, three. It's an iron or a layup, or you hit driver down too close to the green, and all of a sudden you can't get on the green. And if you miss the fairway, it's virtually guaranteed you're going to be in a bunker or long. So there's a couple holes out there that are sneaky, and again, they've become harder as the years have gone on.
Both sides are really difficult, and a lot of gamblers love to look at first round leaders. Do you think there's an advantage in starting on the back nine or the front nine?
Well, that's a great question, Keith. Because I'll be honest with you, when I caddied, I really enjoyed starting on 10 on Thursday morning or even Thursday afternoon, because once you got through basically 17, you get to 18. You have three par five. You got 18. You've got three. You got two par fives coming in. Sorry, 18 and three that are, if you hit good drives, can be birdie holes. But you're going to play the front nine twice, and you're staying away from having, so you can have a cushion playing 15 and 16 and 17 as you're trying to make the cut. So I've always felt that, if you look at it, guys that can get through those first eight holes, one over, even under par, they can really go and set themselves up to have a freed up experience on their 33rd, 34th, 35th hole when they get to the bear trap to make the cut and set themselves up for the weekend.
All right, so let's get into it then. Who's going to set themselves up for victory this week? Let's start with the chalk guys, with your favorites. Who do you think's going to play well this week?
Well, I'd like, obviously Sanjay M is the favorite, as you said, but you got to go with. I like guys going in with the hot hand. The guy that won last week, Neiman, he'll be. I'm sure he's in great form and freed up and fresh. He's played here and played well before. My son actually walked around with him 2 years ago every hole. And like Cameron Young, he seems like he's really playing well. I think he's got a great golf pedigree, and sometimes a guy will make a nice check and have a nice tournament like last week that's just getting started on tour, and he'll either come in and free up and play well. And I've always wondered why guys take time off when they've won or played well. I mean, they spend a lot of energy, but you're obviously on form, so you might as well keep playing. And so I would look at those two guys. Locally, Daniel Berger, he's from here. He's had bits and pieces of some good form, and so I would look at those three guys. Brooks coming off a missed cut, played well this winter so far. He could bounce back, but again, he's sometimes this golf course can have that one bad swing, and it'll be a different week for him.
How about at the longer side of the odds? At the bottom of the table. Do you have any long shots for us to keep an eye on? Maybe a local guy or two?
First ones that jumped at me were Rory Sabatini, again a local home game. He lives 5 minutes from the golf course. Has played on the champ course, at times in the past. I don't leave out. I got a kind of a bias. There's Mackenzie Hughes is a ball striker. Spent a lot of time here in Florida. He's Canadian, as is Taylor Pendrith. Two guys to take a look at, or at least if they're in matchups. And then if you wanted to go to a real sneaky long shot, again a local boy that played well, I believe last year and made the cut, is Brooks's brother Chase, who's just getting his feet wet on the PJ Tour. He does know this course. He's played junior tournaments his whole life, and I'm not sure exactly. I think he finished 35th or 40th last year. They honored an exemption that he had from qualifying in the COVID year when they had to cancel the tournament. So he didn't play a whole lot the next 12 months, but he got to play in the Honda last year, and I believe, like I said, had a decent tournament. So. And I see he's down right at the bottom. So there's where, if you wanted to go long, take a couple looks at those guys. Again, if I was going to put some money on somebody long that could win, it would be Rory Sabatini, probably.
All right. Well, you know what? He might just be a great prop for a top 20. I mean, I know the odds on that would be good, and he has to get near the top of the leaderboard. So I like
If you
that.
go with what some of the the whining comments that I made for these guys, at the end of the day, somebody's making a million, two or three this week, and but the Honda, unfortunately, and if I go back to 10, 11, 12, you had even through 15, 16, you had winners like Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas, who now don't even they live right here, but they're not playing because of the sort of the way the golf course can be extremely penal, and the date with the Players Championship back into March the match plays. There's these guys that are all in those tournaments have the match play, the players, World Golf Championship, and the Masters in 5 6 weeks. So the field, the Honda's taken a little bit. So coming back to that side of it is you're going to have people that are embracing it and loving it, like a Sabatini or like a Chase Koepka, or that are like they can't wait to play it. Tommy Fleetwood, one of my favorites. I'd look to see. I would be surprised if he doesn't play well here because he's probably got a great attitude to be back in the U.S. and secure his card and play hard. So that's where I looked at it. But Sabatini is one of those guys that this is a kind of tournament he loves because everybody else, maybe isn't playing, or he sometimes seems to rise to the top in these situations.
One of my early leans is Billy Horschel. Give me 5 seconds on Billy Horschel. What do you think?
So yeah, no, he's a Florida guy. He played very well on the West Coast, which he hadn't intended. So 100% agree. Again, playing well. We know, I think you and I, how we met, have a mutual friend that's great friends with his caddy, who is one of the best caddies out there, and Mark Fulcher. So 100%. I didn't see he didn't jump out as to where his odds are. I don't know. He's got to be up there pretty far, but I would definitely look at him.
Yeah, he's 25 to 1.
Yeah, and but I mean, I definitely would think a top 20 or 25 for him would be a smart play.
Well, you know what, Dan? I can't thank you enough for coming on Read the Line. All that stuff is just amazing. Now, you got to share with my listeners the Tiger story from 2012 for caddying with Ernie.
Yeah, so it's fun. Like I said, my son has a junior development membership there, so even then, I'll sometimes get to talking about all right. So to get there and Tiger was still pretty relevant, as was Ernie, and so two good players. And geez, I just forgot the guy's name that played with us, but he couldn't even see. He shot like 84. He's on the senior tour now, Champions Tour. But in any case, we got to the first tee, and I'd never seen that many people around. We'd been paired with Tiger before, but the Honda's become a must go to, the highest attended event, here in South Florida. And I mean, 10 deep down the right side of the first fairway, second fairway, third fairway, and then a rain delay went off, an alarm went off. So we came back, and lo and behold, we get there, and the wind had changed 360, and the third hole's a par five. Well, Tiger eagled that. He birdied five, birdied seven, and now he had this electric roar that was building throughout the golf course because now he was in contention with Rory McIlroy leading, two, three groups behind us, four groups behind us. So the place was electric, and I mean massive, just sports fans, not really golfers, as you know what I'm talking about, just running around and getting drunk and watching Tiger put on this show. And he carried it on. He played. He birdied 11. I can remember it like this. Is not even looking at a card. It's 10 years ago. And then he got, he got to, I remember Ernie going, he can't miss this. I said, what do you mean? He just saw mine come down. He knows this is going to go right to left. Yeah. So because we putted from above the hole and it went left to right, he goes, this is going in. Watch this from 20 feet. Ernie's early calling it, right? So we get to 17, fast forward, and he's got to make a big finish because Rory's hanging in there back on 13. But I think Tiger's one or two back, and he hits in the middle of the green, and then that 17th is, you'll see the theater this weekend, is it's all
Sure.
built up again. He makes it two there, and that they could hear it up in Orlando. That's how loud it was. And then he stood up on 18 and just punished a drive with a left to right wind, carried the bunkers and hit a 3-iron from about 225 to that right pin right by the water to about 15 feet and made that. So he finished 2-3 birdie eagle, and I think came second by one. Rory hung in there or played one under coming in. But yeah, it was pretty fun to be a part of, just from the sheer massive energy that the people were given, and it was a lot of fun to be in that group. And Ernie hung in there. I think we finished finished 12th or 15th or 18th or something like that. But he hung in there with that environment. Brant Jobe was the fourth. So if you ever go back to a score, look at his score on the Sunday. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't pull it back. He goes, "This isn't." It was so, I felt so bad for him. And Ernie, unfortunately, he'd seen Tigers act, for 15 years up until then. So, but that was cool. Yeah, and it's cool. It'd
Yeah.
be great. I mean, great if Tiger could get back and play the Honda one more time. As he lives nearby. But that was when the Honda had as I just mentioned, some pretty good names. So hopefully the tournament gets its rightful spot with a great field here, and the local guys can find a way to start squeezing it back in.
Well, I tell you what, even if the field is a little bit on the weaker side, we had a really strong celebrity guest picker this week for Read the Line. Dan Quinn, can't thank you enough for taking the time.
Keith, thanks for having me on. Anytime, bud.
All right.